Hi, Precious Heart. Thank you for joining us for our weekly vlog. Today, the Company of Heaven will continue sharing information about the powerful divine intervention that took place during Earth's 500-year period of grace. In Vlog 90, the Company of Heaven said that in the late 1800s, there were only 100 years left for our 500-year period of grace. So Alpha and Omega asked our Father, Mother God, if they could expand the experiment involving the highly evolved volunteers from throughout the cosmos. In response to that request, our godparents issued a cosmic dispensation, giving Alpha and Omega permission to open the gates of heaven. This gave the precious volunteers who had been waiting in the inner realms for the divine directives to embody on earth, permission to begin their earthly sojourns. In divine timing, our Father, Mother God sounded a cosmic tone, and millions of these highly evolved sons and daughters of God began the process of embodying on earth through the natural vehicle of birth. These powerful beings of light willingly embodied in every corner of the world. Many of them made the sacrifice of incarnating into the most oppressive frequencies of darkness. These were the locations on the planet where humanity was experiencing the greatest pain and suffering. The volunteers knew that the areas where humanity's human egos were inflicting atrocities upon each other would have to be exposed in the light of God and brought to the surface to be healed. These beings of light believed that they would be able to transcend the pain and suffering in those areas more easily than the children of earth who had been beaten into the depths of despair by their karmic liabilities for millennia. When we look historically at the horrific experiences humanity has gone through during the past 100 years, we get a glimpse of the sacrifice our sisters and brothers made on our behalf. They assisted humanity and brought our human miscreations to the surface by volunteering to experience devastating wars, religious persecution, plagues, natural disasters, poverty, hunger, hatred, greed, corruption, violence, and the unbridled abuse of power by our human egos. Through their lives, and often through their deaths, these precious souls brought to the attention of humanity the rampant miscreations our human egos were perpetuating on this planet. Some of these souls awakened fast enough to consciously remember why they were going through such painful experiences, but many of them did not. Nevertheless, they God victoriously went through the experiences that they had volunteered to heal. Their sacrifice purged a great deal of humanity's collective negativity and catapulted the children of earth forward in the light. As people all over the world witnessed and experienced humanity's inhumane behavior toward each other, we compassionately opened our hearts in new and profound ways. The love and empathy we developed when we witnessed the pain and suffering of our sisters and brothers softened our hearts and allowed more of our Mother God's love to flow into our lives. In addition to the souls who volunteered to embody in the densest frequencies of humanity's pain and suffering, there were those who embodied in areas that would allow them to speed up humanity's technological advancement. These souls lifted up in consciousness and tapped into the patterns of perfection in the causal body of God. Their goal was to improve the conditions of the world through advanced technology. The discoveries and inventions they brought to the world accelerated our progress in ways that cannot be logically explained by any normal evolutionary process. The quantum leap we made in technology from the latter part of the 1800s, when we had barely just discovered the telephone, the combustion engine, and electricity, to the advanced technology we have today, does not follow any previously known pace of evolution. The Company of Heaven said it was the tremendous influx of advanced volunteers that is responsible for this unprecedented shift of consciousness. Tragically, a lot of the new technology was hijacked by humanity's wayward human egos. Much of the knowledge has been corrupted and used for destructive purposes that have caused a great deal of harm. Our egos created things like nuclear weapons, designer diseases, and industries and corporations based in greed that have caused catastrophic pollution to the earth, as well as a gross imbalance in the distribution of wealth. Needless to say, that was not part of the plan. In order to try and curtail this appalling abuse of power, Alpha and Omega and many of the embodied advanced volunteers joined forces to initiate a new plan. This plan was designed to help humanity reconnect with our I Am presences and the realms of illumined truth. Our ascended sisters and brothers in the realms of illumined truth have been standing in readiness for eons of time, awaiting the opportunity to assist us in reversing the adverse effects of our fall from grace. Unfortunately, in most instances, we have been oblivious to their existence. To rectify that situation, our Father, Mother God, gave the Company of Heaven permission to reach through the dense, humanly created psychic astral plane of illusion so they could meet us halfway. This meant that humanity would be able to communicate with the beings of light in the realms of illumined truth much more easily. It also gave us much greater access to our I Am presence. When this facet of the plan was initiated, awakening souls all over the world began to remember the sacred knowledge they had been taught in the esoteric mystery schools in various lifetimes. Because of the abuse of power being wielded by the human egos associated with various world religions, these truths had been hidden from the masses. That sacred knowledge was taught in secret societies in order to protect it from being corrupted or destroyed. Once the beings of light were given permission to come through the veil to meet us halfway, the sacred knowledge from the realms of illumined truth was easily accessed by everyone who was willing to lift up in consciousness. As this information flowed into the mental and emotional strata of Earth, humanity's awakening was greatly accelerated. The term esoteric became obsolete, and all information from the realms of illumined truth became exoteric. The mystical teachings of humanity's origins and the path of divine love and oneness became available to the masses through every conceivable open door. Even many of the world religions began to expand their teachings to include the principles of divine love and the acceptance of all people in more truthful and inclusive ways. Many metaphysical organizations began to form, which taught various interpretations of the information pouring forth from the realms of truth. People began to learn about the existence of our Father, Mother God's violet flame of infinite perfection, and how this sacred fire could help us to transmute our human miscreations. Humanity began to understand who the beings of light in the realms of illumined truth really are, and how they can assist us in our earthly sojourns. Our ascended sisters and brothers gave us powerful tools and guidance to help us fulfill our divine plans and increase our ability to add to the light of the world. As the advanced volunteers who were embodying on earth awakened, humanity began to awaken with them. In every corner of the planet, people gathered together to invoke the light of God. Their intent was to help humanity transmute the painful miscreations our human egos had manifested through the abuse of power. This shift of consciousness was so pervasive that the company of heaven said every single day, in one way or another, billions of people on this planet were turning their attention to a higher power and asking God for divine intervention in their lives. No prayer goes unanswered. So this overwhelming heart call from the masses of humanity allowed our Father, Mother God, and the company of heaven to intervene in our lives in more powerful ways than we had ever experienced. Day by day, the light of God increased on earth. In every 24-hour period, the I Am presence of every single person on the planet raised their energy, vibration, and consciousness the maximum that cosmic law would allow. This moved the earth and all her life forward in the light, a quantum leap, which greatly increased our potential of succeeding in the unprecedented experiment we were going through. To this very day, billions of people around the world are invoking the light of God on a daily basis. These precious ones are all light workers, whether they realize it or not. Every one of them is assisting with the shift of consciousness that is taking place within the hearts and minds of humanity. This is true even if they are not yet aware of who they are or the bigger picture of the divine plan that is unfolding on earth. It is actually immaterial if a person is one of the highly evolved souls who volunteered to embody on earth to help humanity during this auspicious time, or if they are part of the earth evolutions now awakening and returning to the path of oneness and divine love. We are all one, and every one of us is embodied on earth during this cosmic moment for the same reason. We are here because we agreed to help the earth and all life evolving upon her to ascend into the fifth dimensional frequencies of the new earth safely. Every person who invokes the light of God is a powerful light worker, even if he or she does not realize how important the prayers and invocations they are making are for the salvation of humanity and the earth. Every prayer, regardless of how small, adds to the light of the world. Every atomic and subatomic particle and wave of life that we invoke from the heart of God helps to transmute our human ego's miscreations. In the short span of 100 years, the influx of millions of highly evolved souls quadrupled the population of Earth. This has caused a lot of concern that the population explosion is going to result in our demise, but that will not happen. Our Father, Mother God, and Alpha and Omega would never have allowed this tremendous influx of advanced souls if it was going to cause more harm than good. This is a temporary situation, and when we complete our ascension in the light, these souls will return to their previous locations. The children of Earth will then continue our learning experiences on this planet until it is time for us to move into the next level of our evolutionary process. The influx of advanced souls that have embodied on Earth since the latter part of the 1800s helped to awaken humanity and shift the consciousness of the masses in ways that transcended even the expectations of heaven. This facet of the divine plan cleared the way for the miraculous events that were co-created through the unified efforts of heaven and earth during the 25-year period beginning with harmonic convergence in August 1987 and ending with a God-victorious shift of the ages and the birth of the new earth on December 21st and 22nd in 2012. With that monumental accomplishment, our 500-year period of grace was brought to fruition, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the light of God is always victorious, and we are that light. The birth of the new earth did not mean that humanity's light work is finished by any means, but it did mean that the earth and everyone evolving upon her took a quantum leap forward in the light. Now, awakening humanity is graduating into higher levels of consciousness that will propel us into frequencies of light and divine wisdom that will empower us to co-create a heart-based world that truly embodies oneness and reverence for all life. Dear heart, next week, the Company of Heaven will begin revealing to us how you and I and the rest of the awakening sons and daughters of God embodied on earth are being empowered by our I Am presences to deliberately assist this sweet earth and all her life through the final stages of our ascension process into the full embrace of the fifth dimensional new earth. God bless you, and I look forward to being with you next week.